Karl Turner.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I begin by commending the Privileges Committee and indeed their report and thanking them, each and every single member, both Conservative members and indeed other members of that committee. It would have been an incredibly difficult task, and the pressure and the media attention and scrutiny was incredibly high on them. So I thank them for the job that they've done. And I think this, Madam Deputy Speaker, I think even anybody actually, really and truthfully, who reads that report, that incredibly detailed and in-depth report, would have to conclude the reality that Boris Johnson was a liar. There's no question, as far as I'm concerned, every time Boris Johnson stood up, I thought he was spewing out complete and unadulterated untruths, being honest about him in this chamber. Very often, you would be surprised that he was getting away with the things that he was saying, but it's proven now that he is dishonest. But I think for me, Madam Deputy Speaker, there is concerns. I think there are questions raised as a result of this report, because the members of the public will wonder why on earth Boris Johnson was entitled to more than 250,000 quid for legal aid. There is no example of any other member being before what used to be the Privileges and Standards Committee, former minister or serving minister, of receiving money from the taxpayer to pay lawyers. Johnson got 250,000 quid from the taxpayer, and the Prime Minister allowed that to happen. And I'd say to the Prime Minister this: he should say no now. We know that Johnson is a liar. We know that he's been discredited. Force him to pay up himself. An ordinary member of the public, if they earn more than £12,570, don't get legal aid. In very often very difficult legal proceedings. But Boris Johnson, who's earned, I think, £6 million quid since he left this place, he's just done a deal with one of the newspapers for £1 million quid a year for writing a column, which column undoubtedly will be, again, untruths, most of it. People don't understand how it's possible for the taxpayer, especially in the circumstances of a cost of living crisis, that the taxpayer having to pay up his legal bill. The second point people will be concerned about is this honours list. The very idea that somebody who's left here as discredited, being convicted by a committee of this House of lying, should be entitled to put people in the House of Lords or give them honours from the King, is just unfathomable for people. Especially when we read at the weekend that some of which was on his honours list are people partying during the lockdown. Boozy shenanigans at Tory HQ. What an absolute, utter, complete contempt to this country. Of course I give way.
Thank you, and he's making an excellent speech. But just on the point about the revelations of this party that took place at Conservative Party headquarters, as we all know, some of those members have actually been given honours by the former Prime Minister. Does he agree with me that those honours should be withdrawn?
I'm grateful to Madam Fred. I think people are more important than us, perhaps, will be wondering how on earth it's possible for Liar Johnson to leave here and the Prime Minister nods through a list of honours for people who was boozing it up in Central Tory office when people couldn't see dying relatives. It's utterly deplorable. And anybody who thinks that's all right, I suggest you get out there, knock on doors and see what your electorate think of you. The third point, Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to make is the fact that Johnson gets 115,000 quid a year, I think it is, for his office costs. 115,000 quid a year to run an office to assist him as a former Prime Minister from the taxpayer. People won't get it. People don't understand that. And let me warn people on the other side. It will cost them at the ballot box. If we allow that nonsense to carry on, people will not be very happy about it. The fourth point, Madam Deputy Speaker, where is the Prime Minister? On something as important as this, I was elected in 2010. As far as house business is concerned, I think this is the most important piece of business that I've ever witnessed since I was elected. The very idea that a former Prime Minister has left here to avoid further scrutiny of this House after a committee of this place has found that he's a liar is pretty deplorable. But the fact that the Prime Minister hasn't got the bottle, frankly, to be here to say whether he agrees or disagrees with the committee's report is an absolute scandal, and the Prime Minister should be ashamed of himself. My final point is this. I don't know what happened during lockdown. I can speak for myself and my family. But I think it is absolutely despicable, an insult to injury, that Johnson alleges as he leaves, in a letter, I think, to the chair of the committee, that other parties were going on, imputing effectively people in this place, one of which was a member of that committee. Whether that was true or not, I don't know. Perhaps it mattered for the Met Police to investigate, I know not. But the fact that his parting gesture was to do that speaks, I think, to the fact that the man is a complete and utter disgrace, and he should never get anywhere